GPA, riding and swerving.
What
Kush,
the
I'm
fuck are you
broke.
listening
Goes
to?
wide, my interior crocodile alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater.
Oh, we got some people. Hello. Hello.
Will, what absolute shit were you just listening to?
Interior alligator. Did you not hear the chorus?
Unfortunately.
Oh, that's a meme song. That's a big meme from back in the day. Yeah.
I'm excited for this.
There is a TARDIS Wikipedia page for boobs.
Of course you've been on there. Of course you have been on there.
No. I saw it come up on my timeline, so I thought, okay, I shall investigate.
Sure, your timeline.
Andy, can you smell that?
Fuck off. Did you actually prepare nose jokes just for this?
Yes.
Oh my, you
Yes,
wanker.
that's right. We're back. Woo, Andrew's buzzing by the sounds of it. I'm your host, Will, and as always, I'm joined by Andrew and two guests today. We are joined today by the EDW Podcast. Hey guys.
EDW, get it right!
EWD?
It's not exterminating what to do.
Exterminating who, Doctor? Just say exterminating Doctor
It's the
Who.
nouns. It's the nouns. Exterminating Doctor Who.
There we are.
How are you
That's
guys?
us.
We're very good up until
Well, we are. Now we've got the name right.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we're great. Seriously, it's very nice to be here.
Thank you guys for joining us. Of course, I came onto your podcast a few months ago, which was very fun, and that'll be in the description for our listeners to go over and listen to. And while you are over there, please do subscribe and check out their upcoming series. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not till like September, but sure.
Fair enough then.
Oh, but if you're a fan of Batman, we're going to be doing a Batman podcast for the next few months.
Yes.
So keep an eye on
Just
the
going to be
channel
helmed by
for that.
me, whereas Aiden
he's
helmed the
taking
Doctor
over.
Who section. I'm going to be helming the Batman one.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's just going to be a little kind of interlude between the two
Spin-off.
series.
Spin-off.
That's the one.
Yeah. Okay, before we do move on, let's learn some stuff about you briefly. Could we have your names and let's say your favourite episode of all time, just to get a gist of your tastes?
I'm Aiden, and I'm an alcoholic. No, that's the wrong thing. My favourite episode, well, it's a generic choice, but it's got to be Day of the Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good choice though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it's just like
It's a bit basic,
It's
though, isn't it,
default, isn't it? It's like, it's like if you
Michael
had
would
one
agree.
favourite.
Okay, so Aiden's the basic bitch. We've got that out the way.
I'm surprised he didn't say a classic episode. That would have really thrown you guys. But hi, I'm George. I'm actually an astronaut, and my favourite episode is School Reunion.
How
Another good choice.
I never knew that.
how can you prefer Brannigan's roast beef and mustard over Monster Munch pickled onion? I'm just gonna edit some canned laughter over that.
Don't give up the day job, Will.
Are you having a breakdown or something? What's going on?
I think he is.
I'll just excuse that little moment, whatever that was all about.
I think the problem is we spawned so many memes in the second season of the Hit and Miss podcast that Will's now trying to follow up the success because none of the memes were spawned from him.
Yeah.
So now he's just trying to script them for the sake of it, and it's not working.
Now, time for some behind the scenes for our listeners here. We took an extended break, and when we recorded our last episode, or technically when you, Andy, recorded the last episode because I wasn't in it, we were in April, I believe. Since a lot...
Jesus Christ, was it April?
It was April. It was 30th of April. Since then, a lot has happened, of course. In a second, I'm going to go through a few announcements, but before, Andy, how's your musical chairs experience?
Are you on about my fucking nose again?
Of course! I told you I was going to bring it up.
Right, long story short, I had my first COVID jab on Saturday just gone. Great, all good things, you know. Yay, that's amazing, science is wonderful. In my 15 minutes aftercare moment where I was sort of sat, so me and my partner went together, and as I was sat on the chair, my 15 minutes was over, I was waiting for his to be done, I fainted. Because I was reading all the side effects, because I thought that would be a smart idea to do while you're in the aftercare section. So I'm reading the side effects, feeling increasingly dizzy. Next thing I know, I wake up and I fainted, fell off of my chair forward, smashed my face into the floor and broke my nose. Yeah, I've got to go in on Tuesday to have it snapped back into
yeah,
place.
yeah, you did mention.
Oh!
Yeah.
Science rocks,
How do you think I feel? I'm the one who's got to get it done. I'm terrified.
Like that.
Oh,
A
God,
bit of
yeah.
screaming. Maybe a lot of bargaining, like, do I have to do this, please? God, no, snap. And then there'll be a big scream afterwards.
Now, announcements. Number 1, myself and recurrent host Michael Wilson have launched a new podcast of our own, Hit or Miss the Big Screen. We have uploaded a movie review last Tuesday. By the time this comes out, we have 6 uploads coming up across respective weeks, and it's a lot of fun, so do be sure to go over there and support us. The link will be in the description. Announcement 2. If you've seen our Twitter, you may have noticed the tweet where we launched our own Spotify page. If you would rather listen to us on Spotify than YouTube, you now can. Again, link will be in the description. Third and final announcement, we've had to double up guests on many of our remaining episodes, so duties will be split evenly between me, Andy and Michael. For example, the next time me and Andy are together is in episode 13, which sounds a long time away. It'll fly by. Anyway.
I mean, I know I'm not in the next one because it's my birthday when we're recording, so I was like, I'm taking the day off.
Let's get on to why you're all here, should I say. The review! But before we do, subscribe. If you don't, you'll regret that. A terrible line from today's episode. If you hadn't guessed by now, Andy, could you do the honours?
Today we're reviewing Series 8 of Modern Who, Episode 3, Robot of Sherwood as the Wheel Dictated.
Robert of Sherwood, as I've been calling it for the past couple of days.
And I say Robin of Sherwood.
Yeah, I saw that joke on your Instagram story. So yeah, Robot of Sherwood. Where do we want to start? Andy, do you want to take over?
I mean, the first thing on the list was TARDIS Team, so let's talk about the TARDIS Team, especially since...
Alright.
I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but in my opinion, it's one of the best things about the episode is 12 and I understand that there are quite a lot of people out there who hate Clara.
Well, it was nice knowing you guys.
We got another Clara hater. Oh,
I don't think Clara has ever been listed under best anything, has she?
She's one of my favourites. I adore
She's one of my
Clara.
favourites. I got sidetracked, but to stay on brand, I'm going to bring us back to the episode we're actually reviewing today, Robot of Sherwood, and I'm going to start with a criticism. Actually, yes. I feel like
sure about
the story, you guys can interject whenever you want. This is just going to be a natural flow conversation.
That's the aim.
Yeah, that is the aim. But yeah, I don't know what about you guys, but I feel like the story, or at least the pre-title sequence, was written for Matt Smith's Doctor and the Series 7 Clara in mind. Like, Jenna performed very kid-like when talking about Robin Hood, especially when you factor in her enthusiasm in the interaction. Like, in Drawing Deep Breath or Into the Dalek, she was not that enthusiastic. But yeah, it didn't feel right in the context of the series after the very dark Into the Dalek. If that makes sense.
This actually kind of ties into a point that I had from the intro, which is that I feel like this story, not that it would be tons better as it is, but I feel like it would have at least made more sense to have it when she was with 11, even though she was much worse when she was with 11. That I think it would have made more sense to have her apparent love of Robin Hood introduced a lot earlier in her character, just because, like, we get it randomly brought up in this episode for the sake of we're gonna see Robin Hood, and then we never get it again.
Yeah. Why would you though?
The thing is it makes more sense in the caretaker, kind of. You know, when the Doctor sees this dashing young guy who has a bow tie, and he thinks, oh, I looked like that guy once upon a time, and it kind of makes sense with the dynamic with him and Danny. So I agree with Andy 100% here. Like, if she was reading a book in a class, maybe, or something as simple as that, like an Easter egg, I think that could have definitely worked. But again, I'm not invested in this story enough to actually care.
I disagree with this.
I just don't really think it's necessary. Like, for example, let's use this as an example. I am from Nottingham, so that is going to affect a lot of my opinions today. Therefore, when I first meet people, generally one of the first things they say is, "Where are you from?" "Nottingham." "Oh, Robin Hood." I very rarely mention it again after that, besides unless I'm talking about something like Robin of Sherwood. I don't know why she would be walking around constantly going, "I love Robin Hood." It's like, I don't really care, love. Like,
Unfair, but those who go around for 2 seasons going, I love you to the Doctor, so... I am curious, because I was mentioning this to Will yesterday. Obviously, don't give exact details, but roughly what area of Nottingham did you grow up in? Because I lived there for university for a few years.
Gedling.
Oh, fair enough. I was literally...
Like, yes, I know it. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know it. I lived in...
Google.
I live right in the city centre, literally. So you know where Nottingham Castle is?
Yes.
I lived literally right up the road from there. Like, the castle was a minute walk from my...
So, the castle
house.
scenes are filmed in Nottingham, yes? I'm not entirely sure. No? Is it?
They filmed at Caerphilly Castle, which
Caerphilly
is
Castle,
in
okay.
South Wales. I've been there, but it's not Nottingham Castle.
Yeah, it's not Nottingham.
Nottingham Castle does not look anything like what you'd think it would look like. It's a giant stately home, basically.
I know. I performed in there. I did a gig in there. It was fun.
Oh, all right.
It was. The castle in the actual episode was very superimposed. I don't know if either of you.
Oh yeah, it didn't look great.
It didn't look good at all. It didn't blend. It was terrible.
But as Aiden's pointed out to me, Doctor Who CGI, you just got to get used to it.
Just live with it.
Yeah, I hate the CGI, yeah. Anyway, Tom Riley was absolutely magnificent as Robin, and that kind of feeds into one of my big positives in this episode is the comedy. I just think the comedy is hilarious, and the Doctor 100% flips off Robin Hood, which actually sounds more dirty than it sounds. But you know that moment that's.
I mean,
like
I wasn't
capped?
thinking that, but sure.
Yeah, I think you just made it dirty for the sake of the joke there, Will.
This is going well. But yeah, his interactions with Capaldi were performed with such excellent chemistry in and out of the dungeon, because of course the dungeon scenes get mentioned far more when talking about the comedy. But yeah, like even at the start when the Doctor is doing the sword fight with a spoon, what do you guys think of that? I like it.
Very interesting little bit about that spoon scene. At the beginning, he's using the spoon to eat ice cream, and then he puts it in his jacket, so it's a nice little continuity there. But that whole, I'm gonna take it from not just that scene, but the whole dynamic between Robin and the Doctor I'd say for me it's the strongest part of this episode, and I'd say without it this episode would be bad. Personally, I think that's the episode's saving grace for me, because I think the way Robin's characterized is very kind of folklore legend, bit over the top, but I think that works because it's Doctor Who, and it's kind of like you can go a bit over the top for stuff. And the Doctor's, the fact he's so adamant that Robin Hood doesn't exist, I don't trust this guy, and he's so kind of aggressive. It's nice, and it's kind of jealousy in a sense, and I like the whole dynamic between them, and the comedy's very strong. And that first little fight scene, it's terrible, but I love it. It's
I love the thing about the fight scene is it's very clearly not Peter Capaldi doing it.
Oh yeah.
As well. When they do the wide shots, it's like, and that is clearly a man in a wig. That is not Capaldi. But no, I agree with George. I very much like Robin Hood in this, and obviously I'm very particular about my Robin Hoods. So I do like this. I like the way they kind of make him a caricature, but they do kind of have like real character there. So it's not he is doing the whole ha ha thing all the time, and it is very Men in Tights. But then later on, he has actually got like he starts gets teared up later on. He has actually got a genuinely serious.
It's clear he kind of
his character. Yeah,
he puts on this. He turns up his whole character to be this, I'm this hero for the people, which he can't be going around crying, fighting bad guys, because that wouldn't really inspire people.
I'm making an uneducated guess here. You've seen quite a few media pieces with Robin Hood in, yes? Since you're from Nottingham, this isn't your first time.
Name it, I've probably seen it.
How does this performance of Robin Hood compare? How near the top in terms of the very best?
Me and George literally talked about this last night, and I gave him my top 6 Robin Hoods, and he's not in the top 6, but he's all right. He's kind of he stands up. I'd quite. What I'd really like to see? I'd really like to see a big Finish series with this Robin Hood, because I think he'd be quite good for that. But yeah, he's all right, but he's not. He's not Sean Connery.
You see, I'm glad
He's
I
not
now
top
have
six
an
worthy.
educated opinion about that. Yeah, not top 6 worthy, unfortunately. Time Riley. Again,
And he's clearly not. I'm not going to say it because the Robin Hoods
Say
I
it.
know are the. Well, not I know. Are the
offended
three,
me with this yesterday.
are the three worst.
say it now.
You've got Kevin Costner, and then you've got Russell Crowe and Taron Egerton. I've seen others, but those are the ones that are usually on TV. So I'm just walking past when I was younger the television, and then it'd just be, oh, there's Kevin Costner wearing really green top, and then you've got
Of those, Kevin Costner is the best one.
Oh yeah, but
He's
none of them are good.
horrendous.
Where just out of curiosity, where does Jonas Armstrong from the mid-noughties TV show come in there? Because that's the one that I remember the most.
I think he was number 6 on my list, wasn't he?
Top 6. There we go.
He was top 6 worthy.
What do you think of Tom? What do you think?
I really like his performance in this episode. I completely agree that his dynamic with 12 is pretty much the best thing about the episode, and just the comedy overall.
Yeah.
Like, the spoiler alert for my thoughts later on, I think the plot itself is pretty ridiculous and kind of really just weak. And the episode itself,
That's why I like it.
the episode itself, I think, is overall a pretty weak episode if you were to take out all the comedy elements. The comedy elements are what makes it really funny and enjoyable to watch, and I think it's one of the few episodes of Doctor Who where there are genuinely multiple moments where I laugh out loud. I think they're, especially mainly dialogue from 12, because Capaldi, obviously, if you've seen stuff like The Thick of It, you know he has really good comedy acting and good sort of timing for that kind of thing. So his quick wit, or at least the way that he plays the jokes and comes in so quickly, it just sometimes catches you off guard. What in particular, there's one part, I think it's it's at the end of the scene where they're in the prison while Clara's with the sheriff, and they're acting like he's ill, and the doctor the doctor says the thing saying, "Oh, I think he may soil himself any moment," and then after they the guard pisses off, or they knock the guard out. I think they knock him out. Robin says, "I soiled myself," angrily to the doctor, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." And
Did you? That's getting into character. It's proper. I love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's so good.
I agree with you with it being in the thick of it. Malcolm Tucker. It's very. You saw a lot of that kind of acting come through Capaldi here, and there's my favourite line in this entire episode is when, at the very start, when he meets Robin Hood, and Robin laughs, ha ha ha, and the doctor says, "Do people often punch you in the face when you do that?" And then Robin says, "Not as yet." "Well, good job I'm here then." And it's proper. It's like such a good little line.
That's a very I don't want to keep using it as a comparison, but that is a very Malcolm Tucker thing to say. To be fair,
it's like that scene from Time Heist where he says, "Shut up, shut up, shut up." You just want to say "fuck off, fuck off, fuck off." It's like there's so many elements of that, like in Series 8, Into the Dalek, in this episode many times, and you can kind of understand. Considering Robin and the morality, or not the morality, of just the main story, the overarching story, to loop around to Aidan's point earlier about the story revolving around the Doctor and Robin being these heroes. I think here's another negative. I think it sacrifices the strong sci-fi plot, just so they can put in the story of Robin not existing. And I think, to link it to a scene now, to provide an example, I like the whole Robin and his merry men scene where he's being introduced to Clara and the Doctor, and I love that scene, but it's goddamn annoying. Clara's line, "Don't you know when the Doctor mentions impossible heroes, it's nice, but shouldn't have to be said. Why is the Doctor so stubborn all of a sudden?" Yes, he's a negative grump in this series, but why is he so stubborn to him being this some sort of hero? Like, we reviewed A Good Man Goes to War, and he acknowledges and he kind of falls back on this, and then River literally says to his face, "You're risen so high," and then he's just saying, "I'm not a hero," stuff like that. And so I think one episode ago you were saying, "Am I a good man?" or stuff like that, and I just think it was our character a bit just to be so stubborn, and I think the plot had to have that.
That is
the point of the plot.
That is the plot.
That is the plot.
The entire idea is that
that's the problem.
He's Well, it's not really, because it's the idea is that Robin Hood is a myth, and if we went round now and said, "Is he real?" I imagine most of you would say, "No, he's not," but I will be like, "Yes, he is." But
I'd like to think I want him to be, but I don't know. That's the thing.
Yeah, the only thing where I'm like, "Yes, he is real," but then people go, "You know, Loxley wasn't a real place, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, it was." Anyway, no, I like the idea that the Doctor is. Because it's like the Doctor whenever they have ghosts in an episode. He always goes, "No, it can't be ghosts. Ghosts aren't real." It's the exact same thing. Anything that's mythological or supernatural or anything like that.
In that case...
He's like, "No, it's not real."
Doesn't that literally happen in Under the Lake and Before the Flood? Yeah. When he's like, they can't be ghosts, and then a bit later in the episode, he's like to Clara, I've worked out what they are. They're ghosts. And it's like, oh, okay.
So it's very much... The Doctor just puts down that idea of mythological things, and then Capaldi's entire arc through Series 8 is the contemplation on what it means to be a hero, and that's his entire thing for Series 8.
I'm just going to say now, we've reviewed The Unquiet Dead, and the Doctor is literally dismissive of anyone who opposes the fact that they may be ghosts. So what you're trying to get across, yes, is correct for Capaldi's Doctor, but the ninth Doctor...
That's 9 years before this. Just
God damn it, Gaius.
We've had 3 Doctors since then. There's different arcs.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that the Doctors, me and Aidan have had this discussion before, when each Doctor... their personality is different, so they do have slightly differing ideas on things, and when they've seen stuff, it might be you just gotta let it slide. It can be unless it's the Doctor shooting someone in the face, I let most of it slide.
Yeah,
fair. I will say,
if he went Robin Hood's not real, shot him, that would be like,
see,
huh? But
look at this fake blood.
He kind of does do that in the episode, just not to that extreme an extent when he's getting samples from all the merry men. But I was just going to say, before we move on from the dynamic of Robin and 12, I find it really interesting that in Deep Breath, Moffat puts in the script that 12 specifically says to Clara, "I'm not your boyfriend," trying to crush this idea that there's any romantic feeling between them. But then 2 episodes later, the entire dynamic between 12 and Robin is essentially a cockfight between who gets to win Clara.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just the Doctor being... He sees Robin Hood as someone who shouldn't exist, and he's maybe jealous of the fact that he's this hero, and he's like... The Doctor's like, okay, Robin Hood doesn't exist, this isn't a thing. Oh no, he exists. No, he doesn't. He can't exist. And he's wrong. He is fundamentally wrong in that instance, and he hates that. That's what I think it is. I do not think it's a cockfight over Clara.
Isn't there even... I can't think what episode it is, but isn't there even a scene where Capaldi says something that is wrong, and then he goes, "Okay, everybody just forget that happened." Yeah, it's Deep Breath. Deep Breath is a scene where he says something, and then he goes, "No? Okay, everybody just forget that happened." So it's like a Doctor who doesn't want to be wrong. So then when he's gone, "Robin Hood doesn't exist..." Oh, there's Robin Hood. It's like... No, that can't be. You've challenged my entire understanding.
You've proven it's not even challenging it. You've just proven I'm wrong, and it's like, no, I've got to find a way to make myself right again.
The point reminds me of a scene from this episode where Marion kisses the Doctor on the cheek near the end, and he just puts his hand up to his face, and then that reminds me of his dynamic with 11. It's like, okay, he's in this new body, and that's probably the first time he's been kissed, and it's like, okay, I understand Andy's point to an extent that the Doctor isn't what it used to be in terms of, kissability, if that's even a word. It is now. And I think that's such a really powerful scene from Capaldi. It is now, yes.
I was going to say, is that kiss when they make mobility scooters, but I thought that was a really shit joke.
I was going to discuss why I thought because I agree with you guys that there is definitely a large element of it being a case of the Doctor being like, "No, I can't be wrong. This is, for lack of words, this is bullshit. You're not real." But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm really invested in their dynamic as a Doctor and a companion. But I definitely at least feel there's a subtext there to do, where, I don't know, it's the way that the episode draws comparisons between the two, especially at the end when they're leaving and Robin essentially compares his tale to the Doctor, which I don't fully agree with, the idea of being a man who comes from wealth and, you know, looks back. And I guess that kind of is accurate. Like,
I love the parallel. That's
Yeah.
It's a great bit in this episode for me.
Scratch what I said about not liking it. I've thought about it just then, and I was like, okay, no, it actually does work. But, like, especially with the way they draw comparisons between him and the Doctor, I definitely do feel like there is some element of competition there. Just maybe it isn't necessarily for Clara. I read it as such, but, like, there's definitely some element of one-upping each other because of how almost similar they are in a way. So I at least I read it that way.
There is competition about, I think, a jealousy between each other and how they do see similarities in each other. I think that is true, but I do not think anything relates back to Clara.
No, same.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but to side this on, the actress who plays Marion, I couldn't find her name, but I don't think she was particularly good, even in the limited role she had. The ending was nice, though, like when she's revealed as...
I don't know who you are, but you weren't good enough, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, screw you. The ending was nice, and it irks me that in the First of the Night did a similar end, but far worse. Because this actually makes sense, and then in the First of the Night, the sister just comes back out of nowhere, and I think you've done this once in the series already. Just stop.
Two things, just to interject your point here. Number one, the actress is called Sabrina Bartlett, so apologise to her.
Sorry, Sabrina.
And second, In the Forest of the Night is absolutely dreadful. We do not talk about that episode.
You guys reviewed it, didn't you?
If you want to get a good opinion on that episode...
link below for that review.
Can't remember exactly what we said about it, but it was not a strong episode, but it gets...
But I think, like, the difference between
okay.
saying, like, the similar endings there is that the Doctor had met Marion and was like, oh, here's Marion, let's give her to Robin. That sounded a bit, you know, patriotic.
You, woman, come with me! I have man for you!
Whereas the difference between the sister in The Forest of the Night is it basically looks like she was just hiding in a bush the entire time.
Yeah.
I believe, and I'm pretty sure I said something like that. I do not think the Doctor found the girl. I just think she was hiding there because the Doctor there's never anywhere near her.
I'm pretty sure she went missing, but was actually just in a hedge the entire time. It was just like, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. And then the hedge got cleared, and she was like, oh, I'm literally at the end of the road.
It's so stupid. Why is that a thing?
Oh dear God, Andy, don't have one of these breakdowns where you just laugh for half the episode like you did in the Visitation review. For God's sake, stop. Calm.
Phil, in my defence, the pterodactyls built their built their base in Astana first. Don't judge me; it's very funny. But anyway, I like the reunion scene between Marion and Robin. I think it's fine.
It's cheesy, but it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On the rewatch yesterday, I completely forgot that the lady in the sort of the castle actually ended up being Marion. I forgot that was a thing.
That was one of my notes. I was like, who is this person? I thought it was just... I didn't even think that because she was so insignificant. It was like...
Did you guys even watch the episode? I mean...
No. Like, it's missing.
I've just seen
it. At the end, it says Marion. Yes, this is Marion. But at the start, it makes no references to a relationship or
that's the
her being
surprise.
missing.
That's the point.
Yes, that's the surprise.
No, I like that they keep it a surprise and then at the end you realise. I'm not complaining at that. It's more a case of I just completely forgot that she was who ended up being Marion. I knew Marion turned up, I'd just forgotten. Just because it got brought up, I just wanted to say that one of my notes is literally just that I think Clara looks absolutely stunning in this episode. I love that outfit. But,
it's a great outfit.
Fantastic, yeah.
She looks gorgeous.
In the previous episode, at the end of it, you asked Michael what his thoughts were on this episode, and I can't agree with Michael at all when it comes to Ben Miller. I actually think he was solid. He wasn't over the top, nor was he lacking in his performance. Maybe that's just me. Sure, the story behind his aspirations is flawed, but as a performance, it's not bad at all. What do you guys think of Ben Miller?
No, I like Ben Miller. You can't go wrong with Ben Miller.
I think... My dad came into the room when I was watching and he said, oh, he's quite a good sheriff, isn't he? And I thought, he's good, but I never really felt intimidated by him. I think he's a good actor, but I never really felt...
It's the same thing I wrote, actually. One of my notes says, likewise, Ben Miller, good choice for sheriff. And what I meant was he's, again, doing the caricature, moustache-twirling villain, isn't he?
Yeah.
Very much. And I do...
As an antagonist to this version of Robin Hood, I think he's the right choice.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
But as a bad
if
guy.
I'm taking,
sheriff.
That's a bad guy now.
if I'm taking him as a sheriff, I'm like, okay, maybe not. But as the sheriff to this Robin Hood, where they're both, when one
Yes.
is very knee slapping, haha, then the other one is, I'm gonna conquer Derby. It's very like.
But we've said that Robin has that extra layer where he's putting on this facade. We've said that. Whereas this sheriff doesn't really seem to have any extra layer. He is just.
No, I like the bit when he's at the farm thing and he just stabs the guy. But I find that quite menacing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the original ending of this had him beheaded.
Yeah,
didn't
have
it?
you
And
guys
then-
seen that?
I wasn't
That'd have been way
making
better.
this up. I wasn't making this up. This is an actual thing, isn't it? Because I've heard about this. And then
the original ending was Ben Miller gets beheaded, but they cut it because it was literally the episode was supposed to air about a week after the ISIS beheading.
Yeah,
and the BBC went, we probably shouldn't do that.
yeah, because isn't the original title Robot of Sherwood because the reveal was going to be that he was the robot or something?
Well, it's called Robot of Sherwood because it's a spin on Robin of Sherwood. That's the
It's actually been on Robert of Sherwood. None of you are getting this, and I'm.
like even when they do the when he does the scene where I mentioned where he stabs the person and then pulls the sword away. That was they said
no
that was a
blood.
Yeah, there is no blood there.
They said that's a reference to Robin of Sherwood because Robin of Sherwood aired at some like tea times and it'd always be like big fights and everybody getting stabbed, but there's never a drop of blood because that was
Okay.
So it was
Okay,
supposed
so
to be-
my
it was
mind wasn't
supposed to
tricking
be
me.
a
That sword was actually clean.
Yeah,
'cause I made a note of
it's
that.
supposed to be.
Oh,
That's the
that makes
point.
sense now, yeah.
But it annoyed
if
me.
you're-
God,
if you're-
for
if you're
realism,
like-
it annoyed me. But
If you're like
Yeah,
me, and if you're like me, and you believe that Robin of Sherwood is the definitive version of Robin Hood, when you see a clean sword, you're like, yes, there's always clean swords in the 1100s.
See, now that I know that was a deliberate thing, I actually kind of like that a bit more, because kind of like George was saying there, and for the sake of realism, that bugged me, but now knowing that it was an intentional thing because it was a reference, I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
I need
It's
to
a
look
nice
up on these
Easter egg.
references. Yeah.
but still, I don't like
Yeah.
it.
If I can go, is this scene after or in front? The archery scene.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. The archery scene. It's such a
It's after the one we just
compelling
spoke
thing to do. I love the fact that the doctor just turns, says this is getting ridiculous, and then does the most ridiculous thing of all. He just blows the whole thing up with his screwdriver.
That is one of my favourite moments from Capaldi. Just the sonic screwdriver blows up the target.
It's one
Yeah.
of those, like,
There's something about it. When I first saw that, because when I first watched this a while ago, when I did my rerun of Capaldi's era, I sent Aiden a video of me just showing him the scene, and when he blew it up, I just screamed because I love it so much. It's such a ludicrous moment, but it fits within this episode. This episode is very but I think it means everything can kind of work.
Yeah, I think no matter what your thoughts are on the episodes of this run, I honestly don't think there's ever a moment where Capaldi, I don't love Capaldi as the Doctor at all. He's
He's an incredibly strong actor.
He is an incredibly strong actor, but there is one moment where his characterization is the worst of most Doctors.
I can see where this is going.
I'm kind of curious which moment this is. I'm just wondering.
It's the one. What's the egg one?
Oh, Kill
Get
the
the
Moon.
name.
Oh, Kill the
Kill
Moon.
the Moon.
Oh, okay.
That's got a long,
Is it
a
the
lot of
moment where he
backlash
fucks
recently.
off?
Well, fundamentally for
thing,
the
though.
Doctor's character, he should not leave. Up until that moment, I can work with the characterization, but as soon as he decides, "Fuck you guys, I'm off," I'm like, this isn't the Doctor. Because in the next episode, he's like, "Oh, I love humans, I'm one of you," and it's like, what?
See, I kind of agree, but at the same time, if it wasn't for that, then it wouldn't have given me one of my favourite moments that Clara gets as a companion, which is her just ripping the shit out of him, which I kind of love.
I hate that
It's
bit
not
because it is
necessary, though, is
it's
it?
unnecessary, and it shows the Clara. It's so up Clara. I do not like that scene. It's so Clara, I'm right, the Doctor's wrong, and it's like this isn't needed because the Doctor shouldn't have done that in the first place. This has only been this problem
It
has
shouldn't
been
be an
created-
episode.
The whole episode is terrible. I hate its metaphor. I hate the way it delivers the metaphor. I do not like it. And if you want to know my opinion on it, and
You
how
have
many times do I
reviewed it.
swear-
Review of it.
Yeah, we did a review
Again, in the
and I
description.
swear like 43 times in the episode.
Yeah, it was our episode with the most because we censor our swears because
Yeah.
we're polite. So it was. I think it was something like 26 bleeps. That's our most amount in an episode.
But I think that's one of our strongest episodes. So if you do like
love
us,
how he
seriously
counted
go
them
give it a
out.
listen.
On the topic of
Edited, don't I? Like, oh, leave again.
on the topic of Ben Miller, I love him in the role. Like, I completely agree that as a standalone villain, like, he's not really memorable. But I think as kind of like how Aidan and George put it, as a foil for this particular Robin, and also just for the tone that the episode is going for, I really enjoy him. That, and I like Ben Miller in pretty much everything I've seen him in. So like I can't dislike him because I enjoy him as an actor, and he does give me probably one of my favourite comedic moments, definitely of the episode, if not one of my favourite comedic moments of the whole show. And it's mainly just because it became a meme between me and one of my friends, but it's just that scene when he's with Clara, and you know the bit it's going to be, the part where he says, I can't remember the lead up to it, but he says, that's not enough. First, we take Darby.
Yeah.
And then Lincoln. And after that, Workshop. The world! It's the overacting of it, kind of, that I just love. And
I like that, but I also like the fact that for that time in history, that's really ambitious.
Yeah.
To take
when you think about it.
Darby, and I do like that scene. I also the bit where he goes to stab the fruit. Is it a grape? I think it's a grape. I can't remember exactly. But he almost misses. Like, it is so close to not being on that dagger. It wasn't a pear. It was this purpley beetrooty colour thing. I can't be.
No, I'm
it's
so
not.
glad I've got that on
It's
video.
that kind of colour, right? It's something around that.
They should have done a Star Wars Episode 2 and just have a CGI one appear on the fork.
Yeah, I'm with you. My brain changed to Empire Strikes Back. I don't know why I did that. But
I'm not saying they should because that scene is shit, but it'd be quite funny.
I love the prequels.
I
can defend any scene in the prequels.
Not talking about Star Wars. End it.
Yes. After he's knocked out, Capaldi's face when he's trying to break free from the chains is unironically hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some scenes that get all the praise, like the big scene, like the 3-minute dungeon scene, which is fantastic, by the way. I love that scene. Comedy. It's like Marguerite was trying to outdo himself with every line. It was like, this is funny, but I'm going to try and make it even funnier with the next line, with how it's responded. And I just think, yes, that is comedy, but as in that is how comedy works. But he did it so well, and it definitely lifted up an episode that is otherwise not a strong sci-fi Doctor Who episode, if that makes sense.
It's the strongest scene of the episode,
Yeah.
I'd say. But that really shows you how kind of the rest of the episode is, you know. Like, it shows, if that is the strongest kind of scene, the rest of the episode is a bit lacking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree.
I like the episode. I want to get that clear. But it's not a strong episode, and I'd say it is subpar for most of the Capaldi's episodes.
Yeah.
I would completely agree with that sentiment. It's enjoyable. I would happily watch it again, but I think that's just because it's enjoyable and for the comedy as opposed to the actual I'm watching it for the plot, because plot?
If I turn my brain off and just watched it, I like this episode. I've watched it twice in as many weeks, and like the first time I watched it without the review in mind, and I was like, yeah, I like this is good, this is enjoyable. But then when I put my hard hat on and my safety jacket, I was like, okay, this isn't the best. But again, it's just trying to find the balance of enjoyment and quote unquote this objectivity. Of course it's subjective, but it's like, I enjoy it, but I don't think it's good. And I think that's the same with several episodes.
No, I was saying
I can't remember if I said this to you yesterday, Will, but because we kind of briefly brought it up on Twitter, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to share. But when I was watching it, one of my main notes that I took away is, and I can't stress the first bit enough, for a Gatiss episode, or Gatiss, however you want to say his name, for a Gatiss episode, it's fine.
Yeah,
I like Gatiss's episodes. Like, I am a
Give me some examples of his other ones.
I've got the whole list here. I put out a tweet yesterday, and some people ranked it as, in no particular order, this is just a ranking of someone's preference. The Unquiet Dead, Empress of Mars, The Idiot's Lantern, Cold War, brilliant episode by the way, Night Terrors, Robot of Sherwood, The Crimson Horror, Victor of the Daleks, Sleep No More, and if you've seen it, An Adventure in Time and Space. The 2013 special.
I mean, I feel like if you're counting that, then that would always be at the top of the list because An Adventure in Space and Time is kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I think the 2013 specials for the show they are of course talked about, but I don't think they're appreciated enough. Like, yes, Day of the Doctor gets everything, but you also have the 5 Doctors reboot. You have An Adventure in I don't want to mess up the words again. Time and space and time.
Adventure in Space and Time.
Yes, and also Night of the Doctor. 3 really, really strong pieces.
And that weird Brian Cox documentary thing that he did that because they were like Matt,
I think.
I forgot about that.
Because they were like Matt Smith will be in it, so I was like, yeah. So I watched it, but it was just Brian Cox giving us a lecture about space and time, and I was like, this is kind of boring. And we got to the end. Then got to the end, and Matt Smith shows up, and it's like, oh, there's Matt Smith, and I've never rewatched it, to be fair.
So I replied to your tweet with my ranking of the 9 greatest Doctor Who episodes, not including Adventure in Space and Time, and I put Robot of Sherwood at 6th out of 9, which is on the lower end, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's above Sleep No More, which I don't necessarily like, but I respect what it was trying to go for.
Did you guys review Sleep No More, by the way?
Yep, that was our episode 3.
Okay,
and Victory of the Daleks was our episode 2, and Crimson Horror was like our episode 16 or something.
Yeah, we've done a lot of Gatiss.
We've done a lot of Gatiss.
Yeah.
Because I'm a defender. I love Gatiss. League of Gentlemen is one of my favourite things ever.
League of Gentlemen is great. I really like
it. It's non-Doctor Who stuff is better, I'd say.
The amount of times that me and my boyfriend...
Well, so is Chibnall's, but...
the amount of times me and my boyfriend quote that this is a local shop for local people to each other is innumerable. Yeah. We do that all the time. But,
when defeating the villains, I don't think the director did a good enough job in the sense that Marion was ferociously shaking her gold plate to deflect bullets that only went to her once. Meanwhile, right next to her, the Doctor is just standing there knowing he doesn't have to put in any effort.
Marion is essentially an extra in this episode, and you can't blame extras for being bad.
I feel like pretty much every character except the core 4 are just extras, because the Merry Men get nothing to do.
The Merry Men couldn't act.
I felt so bad for them.
And I quite like that. Mark Gatiss got his husband to play Alan Adale. I do quite like that.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
He's like going, right, you want to be a merry man? Yeah, be the most annoying one. Go on, be that. So, that scene with the gold plates, everybody in the background, they've obviously just been told, right, you're going to fire lasers. Everybody is doing this. So I think you can't.
Except for Capaldi.
They just forgot to tell Capaldi. If in this case, if we do democracy, Capaldi's the one that's not acting properly. Yeah.
Isn't that the bit that's preceded by one of my other favourite comedy lines, which is the part where I think it's when the robot says they're going to unchain the Doctor and he's like, you can't because I'm already free! I don't know why, I really like that bit.
I like that bit.
But on the topic of the robot, I actually kind of love the design.
Yeah, my final note was robot design nice.
Robot design nice.
So, and I wrote that when they first appeared, so that shows you how many notes I wrote. But
the thing is, when they were first introduced as being robots, when Robin cut off the arm, I thought, and then it kind of turned at the camera, I thought, that's a really good shot. And it was they did nothing with them afterwards, kind of. They were just there, when...
They were just henchmen, though. They weren't really...
But yeah,
I just like the way that they managed to incorporate a sort of evil laser robot design into a medieval knight. I just think it was actually really well conceived. So just on an aesthetic level, I really like it.
Another thing that this kind of episode, I was watching this episode thinking, I really like the classic story, pure historicals, when you've got no sci-fi element whatsoever. Yeah. And I think there's way too many episodes in New Who where they go, right, let's go to the past and let's just chuck a sci-fi element to it, and it's not needed. For example, Rosa, that space racist from the future, is just pointless. Get rid of him. You've got a much better episode.
I still think Rosa's pretty great, I will say.
I despise it. But anyway.
That's fair.
The point is that I was watching this thinking, could this have worked better as a pure historical? But then with the robots and all that kind of element, I kind of think it only really works in that sense for the Doctor to be in his challenge of whether or not Robin Hood can be real. The robots add to that. Whereas if you take that away, it doesn't really flow as well. So I do like I like the robots being in it, but
The
also
way they're
not,
integrated.
but also not being like the focus. It's not let's take down these robots. It's still more. Hold on, what's going on here? Because Robin Hood can't be real.
I agree with you. I think I've mentioned this before in one of our previous episodes. I feel like the historical episodes are often undermined by trying to throw in sci-fi for the sake of having sci-fi. I do agree with you there.
I don't think this particular episode needed it. I think the villains, yes, they look cool, but why were they actually there? Like, again, it's one of my criticisms. The sci-fi plot is not there, so why have the sci-fi villains?
I just explained.
Yeah. I still disagree.
I just answered that question.
I'm kind of on the side that I think that I like the fact that they're here, just because I feel like if you take them out, what do we really have left?
Exactly. Like if you get rid of that sci-fi element as a pure historical, it wouldn't really work, because the only way you could do that is then just kind of sheriff captures the doctor, let's get out of this, let's try, and it's kind of just, this is just standard. You've just got a Robin Hood plot.
That's pretty much the plot of the arc, but that's one of the most acclaimed historical episodes in Classic Who. And
it's also the point of, it's also Marco Polo. Marco Polo is exactly the same. It's just, we've landed here. Oh no, he's taken the TARDIS. Let's try and get out. But it goes on for about 17 episodes.
Since I say this, I'm going to ask you another question compared to one of my other criticisms that I do have, and I want to see if you can answer this one. Why does radiation affect people's mood?
Having been to Chernobyl, I doubt they're very happy.
Well, I mean, yes. No, but it's vice versa here. Radiation is being emitted to
my home and my family have been destroyed. But always look on the bright side of life, guys. Like,
yeah, but Capaldi says
that's all Chernobyl needed. That's all Chernobyl needed was just Monty Python marching through it singing "Always look on the bright side of life."
No, but it's like Capaldi says this explains everything, and says radiation is being emitted to the locals, which is giving them a false. With that coupled with Robin Hood giving them a false sense of hope, it means they're conforming to the plan of the sheriff and the robots, which makes no sense to me.
Well, I feel like
I don't think their passiveness. That was the Robin Hood was.
Robin Hood was their passive.
I'll find you the scene. I'll find you the scene after this.
And what's it called? The radiation was because of the scenery, the greenery, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That was the radiation was to explain why everything looks so perfect.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then that would maybe affect their moods, but I don't think that was his specific.
But I will say, I kind of like the fact that the script kind of goes out of its way just to explain why the forest is so nice. I like that little detail. I think it was quite nice.
It does look beautiful, to be fair.
I do like the quote where Clara's like saying, "Well, what's wrong with the sun?" And the doctor does say, "Well, have you ever been to Nottingham?"
Have you been to Nottingham?
I do like that line.
Yeah.
I've never actually been to Nottingham. Actually, I think I may have done when I was younger. Not any time I can remember.
What the thing with Robin Hood that I love about Nottingham is you get so many tourists go expecting Sherwood Forest to be near Nottingham Castle, and they are literally on the opposite ends of the city. Like they couldn't be further apart. The amount of people that go to Nottingham Castle and you can look bemused because they're like, "Why is there a shopping centre there? Shouldn't that be a forest?"
Just on the note of that scene, though, I just made a little reference, and I only got this because the last episode I did was the Carnival of Monsters, but I noticed that the Doctor makes a reference to the miniscope, which I was like, now that I've seen the Carnival of Monsters, I was like, oh, I get that now, that's cool, I like that.
Like, it's not explicitly like reference, but it's just like
we're talking Classic Who, George.
Yeah, George is just sat there like, well, how do I interject here? But yeah, in terms of final notes, this is my final note. It's about the very final scene. They're trying to stop a spaceship from blowing up by shooting an arrow at them, which first of all makes no sense. How does the arrow...
Don't even get started on
just go with it. It's fun, but it doesn't hold up to scrutiny. That's why I'm trying to say the whole point of my review is, yes, it's fun if you turn your brain off and just don't care, but when you're trying to review it, you have to just think about the actual episode, and you got to think, okay, that doesn't hold up.
There's so many episodes like that, though, isn't there? That you just think, just
Yeah, like
ignore
Kill
it.
the Moon. I'm sure
Like-
you don't think about the egg cracking from the moon and thinking, "Oh yes, let's go with that." You probably hate the episode because of that. One of the reasons.
Yeah, because but that's different. Because that's not a comedy. The moon's an egg, guys. This is just very much like just don't take it seriously.
Kill the Moon tries to have a political message and does it in a
fails,
terrible way. This episode tries to be funny and caricature, and it does exactly that. The thing me and Aiden often fall back to is if the episode does what it set out to do, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
That's actually a really good way to look at everything.
I said to you yesterday, George. I said I like this episode. Obviously, I've got a particular soft spot for it, but I really like this episode. But I said to you, it's hardly the Doctor Falls, is it? Like it's not like. It's the kind of thing where I separate best and favourite. Like, this is.
I do that all the time.
This is not an Oscar-worthy performance. Yet for example, like I've always said, my 10 out of 10 rating things are very subjective. Like I would give like Schindler's List a 10 out of 10, but I'd also give like Shrek a 10 out of 10. Do you know what I mean?
Cinematic perfection, yes.
It's very subjective kind of thing, and this is very much that case of like I probably like Robot Sherwood as much as I like the Doctor Falls, but for very different reasons.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I do the very same thing where I try to separate what is objectively the best to what is subjectively my favourite. So, like, for example, an episode that I love and adore and is one of my most watched episodes ever is Time Heist.
That's a good episode.
I love Time Heist.
I actually fall asleep to that one.
I love it. I think it's phenomenal. I give it a ridiculously high score. However, I'm aware that objectively, it's not on the same level as like Heaven Sent or World Enough in Time the Doctor Falls. I know it's not anywhere near close to that level of good. It's just for me personally, I love it so much that I kind of put it in the same area. World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, I think, is the only time that I have ever been actually scared of the Cybermen. And even then, I say scared, I don't mean like, terrified. It's not like when I was watching Blink as a kid, because how old would I have been when that aired? I'd have been 21 when I think World Enough in Time aired, but like, just
21?
I thought you meant when Blink aired.
Oh, yeah,
I was like, how old are you?
Holy crap, this guy's about 30, 40.
No, well, I'm 25 next week. Shut up. No, when Blink aired, I'd have been
15 years ago.
I was 11 when Blink aired. But like, so with World Enough in Time, I think it's the only time that I found the Cybermen scary, and it is because of the body horror and just how almost the fact that you don't see much makes it worse, which I think is kind of a common thing in horror now. Like, the less you see the monster, the scarier it is.
It's how horror should work. If you show you the monster, it's less scary. If you allow... I don't remember exactly who said it, but I remember this. There's a quote somewhere where it's like, the human brain will fill in the gaps, and it will make it scarier.
I
know you guys are going to jet, but you're going to say it. Why would shooting a golden arrow fix to the exterior, fix internal circuits? And second of all, after establishing that none of them could competently shoot an arrow, they decide to have a chat about it for a solid 10 seconds. Meanwhile, the half of the country is still in jeopardy of being blown up. And I just thought, again, turn the brain off, fine.
Right, in The Witch is Familiar, when the Doctor says, how did I get the cup of tea? Just accept it, I'm the Doctor. What you've got to do is, in this situation, just accept it. It's Doctor Who.
I will say the one bit that annoys me about the shooting the arrow isn't any of that. It's the fact that their solution to the fact Robin Hood can't fire the arrow is have them all fire it together.
Yeah,
that wouldn't mean you fire it better.
Yeah,
that would be much worse.
I was going to say, we could surely just throw the game off completely.
Especially as you've got like Will Scarlet stood behind, who is literally a former mercenary, and it's a bit like, should you probably give him the bow? Instead,
I'll
just sit on the floor, open their legs, and just fight. Like what?
Yeah, I know, right? It's so weird. It's such a weird bit. I'll just run through the last two notes that I didn't get through. So
go for it.
I put, this is one that got me. Near the end, when the Doctor's causing that, like, I think the sheriff calls it the peasants' revolt or whatever, sort of in the sort of slave labour area of the castle. What the fuck is that screen he opens up on the table?
Again,
the castle is the ship. Like they said that the ship disguised itself as the castle.
It completely threw me off because I don't know. I mean, to be fair, yeah, that does make sense. But at the time when I was watching it, I was like, what? But no, that makes
Did you
more sense.
catch the Patrick Troughton screen cap? Any of you? I'm
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
Some of you probably was. Yeah, George.
Everyone did apart from George. That's what we've gathered.
I pointed it out to George. But look, that one there, that's Patrick Troughton.
I did put as well, the sword fight scene between the sheriff and Robin is okay. I'm coming at this from the perspective of there's a YouTuber I watch called Jill Bearup. She's great. She does a lot of videos on sword fighting in movies and TV. And having
We're not
watched
shouting her out, shout us out.
Yeah,
but,
And having watched her stuff, I now can't watch sword fighting scenes without analysing them because I'm like, I don't know, it just kind of happens now. And in this one, there's just a bit too much editing. Like, I understand that obviously I doubt that either Ben Miller or Tom Riley are trained swordsmen. They will have done a little bit, to do the scene.
Yeah.
But the way that it is shot, there's just way too many cuts in the action, so it's kind of very jarring, at least in my
I
opinion.
get that, but it's necessary for the point you just said because they're
Yeah.
not trained.
In most sword fights in like cheaper media, they're never going for the opponent because they can't do that. They just go for the other sword. And there was a moment in this where Robin Hood saw the opponent and went, right, you're completely open. I'm going to go this way to hit your sword. And I was like, right, you're an idiot. Stab him.
Since I didn't really share my thoughts on it, I did say, so the arrow shot is stupid, and I both hate and love it. I hate it because logically it makes no sense. Why does shooting that tiny gold arrow suddenly give the ship enough gold content for the engine?
Again, we just had that
conversation.
conversation.
But I also had in my note that I basically what you guys said, where like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's like it's serviceable for what the plot requires, and it doesn't make me like the episode any less.
Again, it just revolves around the plot. The plot needs it, as opposed to it actually being great sci-fi, because it's not great sci-fi. It is enjoyable comfort viewing.
Yeah, and I also but I do appreciate that the solution, if you want to call it that, was something that was established previously in the episode. I always like it when episodes do that, because if they just like pull something out their ass, it bugs me. But in this instance, like we know the golden arrow already existed, so I'm kind of glad that if they were going to do something with it, or if something was going to end up being the solution, I'm kind of glad that they at least used it because we already knew it existed. And then the last bit I put is I really like the line from Robin near the end. I think he says it's the Doctor, where he says history is a burden but stories can let us fly. I just really liked that line. I thought it was really sweet.
It's a nice scene to end, 100%. Do you guys have conclusions written down, or is it just a score for you guys today?
Taking all this evidence into account, I don't know. I haven't. No, generally, if I had to be objective, what would I give it? 5 out of 10, maybe. If I was being subjective, it gets like a 7 out of 10 for me, because obviously I love Robin Hood. So when Doctor Who meets Robin Hood, I'm of course just going to be like, yes, give me all of that. So I have a very soft spot for this episode. I find it very funny. This is like the kind of episode that if I'm thinking, I just fancy putting Doctor Who on in the background, this is the kind of episode I choose. Like this or The Caretaker are usually my two that I just put on in the background. So it's an episode that I can watch very easily. You don't have to think about it. I like the plot. I like Ben Miller. I like Robin Hood. I like Mark Gatiss' husband as Alan Adale. So it gets a 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
I took on the average.
Agree mostly with Aiden. It's a fine episode. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It's just fine. And when I watched it again, was I a bit bored? Yes. But when I first watched it, I enjoyed it. But
yeah, but you had only seen it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you would be like, this again.
I mean, if I was rewatching Heaven Sent, I'd be on it, you know. So that's. But
Yeah.
what do I give it out of 10? It's 5-ish. Realistically, because it's not out of 4. If I'm gonna be proper critical, a 4 for me.
Okay, so I'll put 4 down for you. Andy, do you want to go next? Oh, do you want me to go next? Because I do not have a conclusion at all.
I mean, I didn't really like one either.
So we had to write an essay, but
I do have a conclusion, but again, it's just what we've been over or what you've just said.
Yeah, I wrote an essay. I did.
same.
Yeah, a story you have to turn your brain off for 45 minutes to enjoy, which, by the way, I did, sort of. Oftentimes there are weird writing or production decisions that hinder the episode dreadfully.
In our podcast, we never hold things like that because we kind of just go off the plot, like production.
Yeah, but then again, I did criticise the plot quite a bit earlier.
But we put you down, so...
the sci-fi plot is indisputable. Even you said it's Doctor Who. Like, okay, yes, fair enough. You can forgive it, kind of, but it doesn't mean it's great sci-fi. That's my point. But
it's great Doctor Who.
It's not great Doctor Who, is it?
No, but I mean, it's fun Doctor Who, but it's like if you're going fun sci-fi, then the majority of Doctor Who is not fun. It's not good sci-fi. It's kind of just cheap and cheesy, isn't it?
Fair enough. I do agree with George's score here. I also gave it a 4 out of 10. I am sorry, Aiden. Andrew.
Fuck you, Aiden.
I will shoot. Shoot you.
The only note I really made for my conclusion was that it was better than The Visitation.
Yes,
because that was interesting. I don't think it's particularly much better though. I think I gave Visitation 5.5, and I'm giving this a 6.
Fair enough.
It's enjoyable. I can easily stick it on, enjoy watching it, and just have a nice time with it.
Yeah.
As objectively as is this a good Doctor episode? But like from like a perspective of like comparing it to the greats. But no, it's fine. It's enjoyable. I can happily watch it.
Yep.
And even though the plot is ridiculous and nonsensical, the comedy is really actually pretty great and basically saves it. So yeah.
Fair enough. So that does bring the average to a 5.25 out of 10.
That's fair enough.
It's fair enough at the end of the day. Not good, not particularly bad either. But yeah, that kind of wraps up the episode. Thank you guys for coming on, returning the favour, so to speak, as I was on yours.
Yep. If we don't gain any followers from this, we will be suing.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll be in the description below. Before you guys can leave if you would like to. We do have to spin the wheel for the next episode, so if you want to, you can
we'll stick around.
Stick around. What the hell?
Stick around.
Get out of it.
Off. Yeah, no. I'm going to spin the wheel, of course, in the next episode. It's Michael, Dan Peters, and Matt Whelan. So let's see what episode they'll be reviewing. The wheel is spinning. Oh dear God. I feel so bad for the guests. The Battle of Franskor af Kolos.
Oh God!
Oh no!
Oh God! Now I'm glad I'm not in that episode.
Oh, thank God we're not on that one.
Oh God, the worst finale.
Yeah.
Oh Christ!
You just clocked it. Yeah.
I just googled it, and I can tell immediately that it's going to be quite fun.
I feel so sorry.
It's Jodie Whittaker. So you thankfully haven't seen it, George. But
I've seen the majority of Jodie Whittaker because of you decided to pick for our podcast a lot of Jodie Whittaker ones. So
there's only two in the next. There's only two episodes in the next series. Okay.
To get context, I'm going to have to eventually have watched all of it.
But yeah, guys, again, thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for listening.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for coming on, guys.
Yeah.
And anyone who listening, if there are some listeners, you guys might not have any listeners. Well, we have 3. So, but no, if you like,
we're now going to kidnap both of those listeners to come over and listen to us.
If you did like me and Aiden, come and give us a listen. And if you liked us here, you'll like us there. If you hated us here, you'll probably hate us more. So still come and listen so you can judge that.
Just give us the views, really.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys. Adios. Goodbye.
Why?
You just say for the end of the recording of the episode, when I edit it together, say it's coming home.
Is this a football thing?
Yes.
Can't you do it?
No, I need you to do it, please.
No, you don't.
It's coming home, isn't it, Andrew?
I fucking hate football.